So if the Philadelphia Eagles decide to move on from Nick Sirianni during this offseason and in the playoffs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they go down in flames and they end the 2023 campaign having lost 6 of 7 games, should the Eagles hire Bill Belichick and make a splash hire in moving on from Nick Sirianni? That's what we're talking about on today's Eagles Now, after Belichick and the Patriots on Thursday agreed to part ways after 24 seasons and arguably the best run for any coach and franchise in the history of the National Football League. And what a wild 48 hours we witnessed this week. And it's the end of an era in coaching. Pete Carroll out with the Seattle Seahawks. Nick Saban decides to retire, no longer the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Bill Belichick out in New England. A lot of championships between those 3 coaches, and they go down respectively as some of the best coaches of all time, and certainly in this generation of football. What a run it was for Belichick in Foxborough. 266 and 121 in 24 seasons at the helm with the New England Patriots. He is still 15 wins away from tying Don Shula's all-time win record at 347. And that tells me right there he still has gas left in the tank and is still motivated despite the crazy hours and the wild schedule to be an NFL head coach. But since Tom Brady's departure when he went to Tampa Bay, won a Super Bowl in 2020, Patriots have flatlined and they've gone downhill, and Belichick's teams haven't been the same, especially those offenses. 29 and 38 since Brady went to Tampa and then obviously retired. But a great resume for who I think is the best coach of all time. You can throw out Bill Walsh, but Bill Belichick has more rings and had more sustained success for a longer period of time. And in 24 years, the Patriots won the AFC East 17 times. A little bit of a down division. They still won it, though. 9 AFC championships. That doesn't always have to do with the AFC East. 12 Super Bowl appearances. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University, but that rounds out to be a Super Bowl appearance every other year. Think about that. 21 winning seasons and the only 16-0 team in the history of the NFL. As of right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, the last team to beat Bill Belichick in a Super Bowl. And look, I don't think that Belichick is done. He is 71 years old, and we've seen a trend here. Nick Saban, older guy, he's out. Pete Carroll, older guy, he's no longer coaching with the Seattle Seahawks. Joe Biden, just kidding, I'm not going to go there. But with Belichick, he loves ball. And mentally, it seems as though he still has it. So I think he's going to want to continue to coach here. And I think that he can still coach at a good level, but under one caveat. He cannot and no longer oversee player development. And my boy Jack Fritz at 94 WIP, I was texting with him last week, and we were talking about Nick Sirianni. He jokingly texted me after I put out a video defending Sirianni, and he said, "How long are you going to have these bad takes on Twitter?" And I was like, look, what he's done in 3 years has been really, really impressive. And he's like, they should hire Bill Belichick as head coach. And I told Jack, you know what? You're now the afternoon host at 94 WIP. You talk about this on the air. The rest of Philadelphia is going to begin to talk about it. And it's now not just a local conversation. This is a national conversation that has taken place in the city of brotherly love. Adam Schefter with this as well, kind of confirming my thoughts and my feelings on this, that Belichick is going to want to continue to coach and is expected to draw interest from at least some of the other 7 NFL teams as of right now that currently have head coaching vacancies, quite possibly Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons, per league sources. Also of note here, some people had this question when the news became official early on Thursday morning. Are the Patriots going to try to trade Belichick to get some compensation back? Looks as though the Patriots just going to let Belichick walk to find his next destination. And I would say that he did enough for that organization so that they can allow him to choose where he goes next. So with that, this is today's poll question, and it's also going to be the pinned comment on today's video. And I'm going to reply to the pinned comment with the YouTube short. So look out for that down in the comment section right now. Pick the Eagles head coach if you could make the decision in the shoes of Jeffrey Lurie, the Eagles owner. NS for Nick Sirianni, BB for Bill Belichick. I'll share my thoughts down below in the comment section right now. Coming up next, we're going to go through some pros of hiring Bill Belichick, but also some cons. And I think the cons might outweigh the pros. Plus, a look at Nick Sirianni's impressive resume. I know a lot of people are against him right now, but look, what he's been able to do, pretty damn impressive. First, let's give a shout out to our sponsor for today's show. That is Game Time. If you're looking for the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed, download the Game Time app. Prices drop as the event gets closer. You can swipe for some flash deals on what is a free download with this app, and you're guaranteed to get the lowest price. You can also get the vantage point from your seat and the price point from your seat. So if you're concerned about having an obstructed view at a stadium with the Game Time app, as you can see on the left side of your screen, you're not going to have that. You can see where you'll be sitting and the price for those seats. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go down to Tampa and you still believe in this football team, there are still NFC wildcard tickets available at Raymond James Stadium. Earlier on this year in Week 3, Eagles fans took over the joint, and it was loud. It was an Eagles home game away from the link. Hopefully, Eagles fans are going to be able to do the same for a playoff game. You want to go to a Sixers game, a concert, comedy show, theater event, you can do that as well. Download the Game Time app, and you get $20 off when you use the code EaglesChat. We want you to save money, and we want you to have fun going to games while being fiscally responsible. You can do that with the Game Time app, and you can save $20 off using the code EaglesChat. The pluses of hiring Bill Belichick. Look, he's arguably the greatest head coach of all time, and I think that he is with the long and impressive resume and the sustained success that he had in New England, and we went through the resume a little bit earlier. Bill Belichick, yeah, he's a little bit older, and the offense for the Patriots since Tom Brady departed Foxborough has been trash, but he's still a great defensive mastermind. And this year, I love the defensive game plans for New England. I loved how they played on the defensive side of the football. So still a great defensive mastermind who alters schemes and alters looks every single week based on the opponent. He is not strictly going to remain with one scheme just because he's stubborn like Chip Kelly. It all changes on the opponent, the quarterback, the personnel, the offensive weaponry, the play calling, the play design, the opposing scheme. He's a terrific game planner because of that. And with Belichick, you know that he has high-level big game experience, having won all of those Super Bowls with the Patriots. The negatives, though, I think the negatives do outweigh the positives with Belichick at this point. He cannot have personnel control. Defensively, he can identify talent. On the offensive side, he hasn't been able to draft a legitimate wide receiver in a long time. His best pick at wideout, Jacoby Myers. And I would say that Jacoby Myers is a really good 2 or a really good number 3. Now, occasionally, some UDFAs, some late-round picks, some solid offensive linemen, he hit on a couple of those players. Drafted Tom Brady in the 6th round. As far as skill players go, Bill Belichick does not have an eye for talent, and as he's gotten older, it's gotten even worse. And that Pats offense, dreadful this year. Yes, they had quarterback problems, but they really did nothing to elevate the play of Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. Zappi had some moments, but come on now. Less than 14 points per game in 2023, that's not going to play. 31st in the National Football League. There's also a real question to be asked here. Is he cooked? And are we entering a new era of the NFL where an old school type of coach like this doesn't really jive with players, where he doesn't have a sense of what works, lack of creativity on the offensive side? And some people have some questions with Nick Sirianni. He doesn't call plays. So you get a really good offensive coordinator, that's great, but then they jet for a head coaching job. You would still have that same problem with Bill Belichick. And is he gonna bring some of his cronies with him? Josh McDaniels, I really have no wants for Josh McDaniels to be the Eagles' offensive coordinator. So those are all real issues. And with Nick Sirianni, people are down on him. Some people are calling for his head. And I've said here on the show, it doesn't look good right now. It's been ugly, and a lot of that falls on the plate of the head coach. But Sirianni has the best winning percentage among all coaches hired since 2021. 8 of the 22 coaches who have been hired since then have been fired. And Nick Sirianni is still going and still having high-level success. Nick Sirianni is also the only coach hired in that 2021 cycle who's made the playoffs every single year. And I think what we're seeing, it's a Super Bowl hangover. Usually you see that early in the year. And if the Eagles had a Super Bowl hangover earlier in the year, I don't feel as though there would be the vitriol toward Nick Sirianni that we're seeing right now compared to the late season collapse, because people would just chalk it up. They made it to the Super Bowl last year, heartbreaking loss. They started off slow. It's a Super Bowl collapse. But because they've collapsed late in the year with so much at stake, that's why you see some of the hatred directed towards Sirianni. But the resume is pretty impressive. My thoughts, I'm good on Bill Belichick. And I think that Nick Sirianni gets another year. When you have as much success as he's been able to have, I think you owe him that. And I think that he's earned that to see what he can do. And next year, if the Eagles still have some of these lingering issues, bad communication, play calls getting in late, offensive scheme, lacks creativity, not putting players in a position to succeed, bad communication as far as offensive line goes, Jalen Hurts having no confidence when the blitz is coming, the offensive scheme not having checkdowns or safety valves, sloppiness, penalties, turning the football over, then we could have this same conversation next year, and then Nick Sirianni, the seat might be even hotter. If the Eagles do move on from Nick Sirianni, it's not going to be Bill Belichick, who's my number one candidate, and he's not even in my top 4. Jim Harbaugh is my number one candidate. You hire Jim Harbaugh, he's won everywhere that he's gone, has a pro-style offense, a pro-style defense, and he brings Jesse Minter with him, who's the Michigan defensive coordinator, who is a rising star in this industry. So he is number one on my list if the Eagles were to move on from Nick Sirianni. That's a program changer, a program developer who maximizes player talent and coaching talent and wins big and wins everywhere that he's gone. And I think that he can handle a big market name, big market personality. He fits that bill. Candidate number 2 would be Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. All the creativity that this Eagles offense lacks right now, Ben Johnson has it. Pre-snap motion, multiple route trees, run game, pass game. He's a very creative offensive mind that kind of fits the mold of where we are in the 2024 NFL landscape. Number 3 for me would be Mike Vrabel. Now, I'm weary of hiring a defensive mind because, again, you're going to run into issues when you get that good coordinator. He's going to become that hotshot coordinator who gets a head coaching job elsewhere. Then you have to restart the process. And we've seen with new coordinators this year, Eagles on both sides of the ball have really struggled. But Mike Vrabel, like Jim Harbaugh, maximizes teams. They always punched above their weight. They were tough, great defenses. And this Eagles defense right now is a straight-up joke. And I think personality-wise, players love him. Philadelphia would really love him. And I think that he would be a good fit in this city. And then at number 4, a little bit of a lesser-known name, but it's Bobby Slowick, who's the play caller and offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans. He calls plays. He has his offensive system. He would call plays for Philadelphia, so you don't have to worry about him leaving. And he's a part of the Kyle Shanahan tree. And I love that Kyle Shanahan offense. It's worked for Sean McVay. It's worked for Matt LaFleur. It's working for Mike McDaniel, although Mike McDaniel's teams, I think, lack in the physicality department, but the Niners do not. Look at what Bobby Slowick's been able to do with a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who has had a tremendous season. And with the Texans, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, and a first-time play caller in Bobby Slowick, who used to be the pass game coordinator with Kyle Shanahan. So he knows all of the tendencies from that Shanahan offense, and he's a very creative offensive mastermind, play designer and play caller. He'd be young. I'm not sure he'd be used to the city of Philadelphia, but as far as calling an offense and installing an offense with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Scudder, and this offensive line, they could put points up in a hurry, and they wouldn't have a lot of the same issues as we've seen this year with Brian Johnson as the play caller. So with that, our final question for today's show, should Sirianni return in 2024? R for return, F for fired.